and with engaging the phenomenon and James Ian Doley, I mixed it up with somebody completely different. But we got it straightened out. We fixed our lettering on everything right before the show. So thank you for reminding me, James. Without further ado, probably the sweetest man in ufology, Mr. James Ian Doley. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how you doing, man? I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I do not have a cool background like you guys.
Dude, just ask and I will help you. Just let me know, dude. Anything, any questions you have on this kind of stuff, just hit me up and I'm always willing to help. But it's not hard. We got some connections.
But it's not about our background. It's about you today,
Yeah,
James.
indeed it is. Indeed it is. But I appreciate you noticing it because we did put a lot of work into it.
That's true.
So James, and money, and a little bit of money. So gosh, man. First of all, it's so nice to finally talk to you face to face. We've had a lot of interaction on Twitter privately. I've done some videos for you when you reached out. I've been wanting to talk to you for a really, really, really long time because you have such. I feel like I've got so many questions about CE5, and the people I kept asking kept telling me, you got to talk to James. You got to talk to James. You got to talk to James. And then I go and look at your channel and I see what you're doing and I'm like, yes, this is the perfect guy to talk to about CE5. And so I guess let's start with first, James. Introduce yourself. If the people out there that are watching, if they don't know who you are, how you got started in this, why did you start your Twitter account and your social media profile? Like, what inspired you to get going on this topic?
Oh wow. Well, a lot of people may know I got into this directly through contact and other, you can call metaphysical experiences, but that kind of goes to what my friend Exo-Academian says. There's a point of convergence. So for me, the UFO thing was never a question. I always had, I guess you can say, strange experiences, and UFOs were right in there with them. And from a young age, I was investigating things like metaphysics and even UFOs. And actually, where I live in Westchester, New York, this was a hot spot. So there was something called the Hudson Valley UFO wave around the time I was born. So this entire area I live in, even though UFOs were fringe at the time when I was younger, you'd still hear people telling stories about their UFO encounters. And actually J. Allen Hynek, one of the last books that he worked on, he co-authored it, was called Night Siege: The Hudson Valley UFO Wave. And I read that really early on. And, again, it's about all these close encounters of all different kinds in the late 80s. And that book, I forget what year it came out, sometime in the 90s. So I had already been, reading stuff like that. But then what really got me to dive in, like, no looking back, I guess, like take it to another level, to take the subject extremely seriously, as almost like a life mission seriously, was that starting in 2007, I had a string of encounters of, all different types. It wasn't just one experience that happened. There was several, and they were all kind of like in your face, no questioning that it was a UFO encounter.
Right.
And so from there on, I actually found Dr. Stephen Greer's work. And, I know he's a controversial character, but,
Right.
This is my story.
Yeah.
So I found his work first with the Disclosure Project. And I was like, how did something like this happen? Because I'd seen some of the Larry King shows before, but I had not seen stuff like this where, you had the Disclosure Project, and there were just dozens and dozens of high-level, military and intelligence and corporate witnesses that testified on stage under oath, basically, to their involvement with the UFO cover-up, or their experience in the U.S. Military and intelligence with UFOs directly. And I was like, how did something like this happen? I didn't hear about it. So I just went, head first from there. And then through looking through all the Disclosure Project witness testimony and stuff, I found the CE5 work. So I started looking into that. And what caught me from the start was that when Dr. Greer was talking about CE5 and contact, first of all, I'd never heard somebody talk about contact like that before in the way that he did, the in the comprehensive manner that he did. And to me, that was parallel. I was like, this is exactly what I had experienced, the way he's describing it, the way that the contact happened and everything. So that was uncanny.
Do you mind sharing like what that contact experience was like for you?
Which one? I mean, just in general?
Well, yeah. I mean, specifically, you mentioned that Greer, he kind of hit the nail on the head when it came to your experience. What he was explaining was what you had experienced. Can you give us an idea of what maybe one of the contact experiences you had that you were able to relate to when you were reading Greer?
Yeah. So one of the experiences that happened, let me see which one.
There's so many.
Well, no, there's quite a number of them, and you're talking about before and then after,
right?
But before,
before his specifically, right?
I had this something akin to a near-death experience. It was a trauma-induced out-of-body experience, and it was like it was identical to what you hear about near-death experiences. And there's a whole experience about that I really don't want to go into.
Sure.
But the following day, I'm cleaning my room, thankful to be alive, basically. And all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, I have a voice that goes through my entire body. And it said, come outside. And within that moment, I instantly, I knew what was happening. I knew what was going to happen. I knew that it was, a UFO basically, or, UFO intelligence. And so I ran outside, and, it was something like a download, what you could call it. So I ran outside, and as soon as I get outside, I'm like outside my front door, and I just hear a humming, like a low hum, like vroom, 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 slowly. And I feel this pulsing through my body, and I'm just electrified. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
And so I look up and I didn't see anything. And then I move a little further because there's trees right above the house over here. And then as soon as I can see up into the sky over the trees, there was this craft that was like a hexagon. Its sides were kind of flat, but they were rounded. It wasn't like pointed. They were curved, but in six-sided.
Got it.
And it had this square light fixture, and like these lights, like blue, green, yellow, white, going around like this, like all these different color lights.
Wow.
And I was it was and it was like a dark gray, like a gunmetal gray, and I was just freaking out basically. And slowly moving over me, and I'm kind of in awe.
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie. At this point, I was questioning whether the car accident had affected my like if I'm hallucinating because I hit my head so hard, or what the case is. And I'm seeing it move, and it disappeared and then reappeared like about 1,000 feet ahead of where I was over this lake that was across the street from my house. And again, it's go over there and it's moving, and it has these lights spinning around. And I ran into my house to get my family members because I'm like, this, somebody's got to see this because I'm like losing my mind here, basically. So I run in, I grab a few of my family members. I said, hey, listen, I said, come outside. I said, they're here. And they're like, who's here? I said, just come outside. And sure enough, they came outside, and there were different crafts appearing and disappearing and moving along the sky like this with the lights spinning around. And this happened for almost a half an hour. And
the rest
again,
of your family saw it as well?
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is not the only time that my family was present for a high level contact event.
Wow.
Because with this download, it was like that I could feel what they were feeling, if I could describe it. And I know, people might say, oh, it's a manipulation or somehow, and I don't know. I can't tell you yes or no. I didn't get that impression. It felt like what people say, like a mind meld, where your consciousness is merged with theirs in a way. And for me, it was like overjoyous. Like from the second that I heard the voice, and like I felt the voice almost in my body, is how I could describe it. And I was elated, and I'm calling all my friends after this, like telling them, you're not going to believe what just happened. And I'm really thankful that my family was there, because I don't know if I would have even believed myself after this if I didn't have several other witnesses.
I could let me just say I can relate to that. The thing that really struck me, James, was the download. Because recently I've had something similar happen to me, but it was in the form of inspiration. And this inspiration I had no control over it. It was completely uncontrollable. It was as if somebody jacked into my brain, and all I saw was just images for 2 straight days. And to try and articulate that feeling to anyone was really difficult for me, because I'd never experienced inspiration on that kind of level. I mean, I've been inspired many times in my life, and I guess maybe I wasn't paying attention to how the inspiration was coming. And this time when it hit me, it was like a cold bucket of water to my brain. It's the best way I could describe it. And so when you say that, it rings so true with me. And so I just wanted to say, thank you for telling that story, because I'm sure that's not an easy story to put out on the table like that.
It's not.
And because people are going to judge you immediately for it. And so I just wanted to comfort you by saying I've had this download experience as well.
Yeah.
And guess what? So has Einstein, so has Da Vinci, so has any of the great artists, minds that have ever existed, have all experienced this form of, I don't want to call it communication, but interaction. This idea that, inspiration is not coming from you. It's coming from something else. What that is, hey, we could sit here and theorize and speculate about it all day, and it gets fun. So I just wanted to share that with you and just say thank you. That was a killer story. So how did? Well, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, so the kind of telltale sign of contact in my experience, and what makes CE5 unique, or what maybe Lou Elizondo and Hal Puthoff would say cognitive human interface,
right?
Is that correlated with that consciousness aspect is a close encounter. A sighting of some kind of, UFO, and that really is what I guess you can define as contact in one sense of the way, especially with a CE5, because not only is there that download aspect, but you have the physical manifestation of some kind of object or technology, which is incredible. It had helped, again, like take me to where I am here now speaking to you guys, because it led me down an entire journey.
Yeah. One of the most fascinating things about your story, and you just pointed this out, and I think it's worth mentioning again, is not only did you have this sort of close encounter consciously, right? You experienced some sort of telepathic, or you had some sort of experience where you were being engaged, and I now know why you titled your podcast what you titled it. But that being said, like you not only did you have that engagement, but then you had a physical manifestation, which was then seen by other people. And I think that's one of the most rare things about your story, that I'm hearing is because, I've had psychological experiences where I felt in engagement with otherworldly or other sorts of consciousness before, similar to Luis, but I've never had a physical